Hi everyone and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner. Or welcome if you are new to my channel. Glad to have you here. So, we're going to of course continue with the Paranormal Activity franchise series that I've been taking a look at this month. And today we're up to the sixth movie, and it's the last movie in my Paranormal Activity 6 movie collection on Blu-ray here. And that is Paranormal Activity The Ghost Dimension from 2015. So yeah, let's talk about the Ghost Dimension here. So Paranormal Activity The Ghost Dimension is a 2015 American 3D found footage supernatural horror film directed by Gregory Plotkin in his directorial debut and written by Jason Harry Pagan, Andrew Dutchman, and Adam Robitel and Gavin Hefferman. In the sixth installment in the Paranormal Activity series, most of the film takes place after Paranormal Activity 4 from 2012, though the plot ties in heavily with the events of Paranormal Activity 3 from 2011. It is the first installment not to star Katie Featherston as Katie, although she appears played by Chloe Senjury, who has already portrayed a younger Katie in the last two installments. So in 1988, Katie and Christy watch as Dennis's spine is crushed by a mysterious force. Grandma Lois takes the girls upstairs. A man speaks to the girls about Toby and how they are important to his plan. In 2013, Ryan, his wife Emily, and their 6-year-old daughter Leela are about to celebrate Christmas when Ryan's brother Mike moves in after breaking up with his girlfriend. Ryan and Emily's friend Skylar notices that Leela is talking to an imaginary friend named Toby. Mike finds a box of old videotapes dating from 1988 to 1992 and a large video camera. The tape shows a young Christy and Katie with their mother Julie and her boyfriend Dennis in 1988, while others from 1992 are in Lois's home, where the two are practicing supernatural abilities with the mysterious man. Ryan and Mike notice that the girls are seemingly aware of the pair's presence through the videos. Ryan notices an old camera picks up spiritual beings. He decides to record overnight and several paranormal events occur. Ryan and Emily discover that their house is built on the same property that Katie and Christy used to live in before it burned down in 1992. The grown-up Katie sold the house to the family, which was built by a coven of witches called the Midwives. So that's to set up the premise, the beginning of Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimension. As far as the cast goes, we have Chris J. Murray as Ryan Fleege, Britt Shaw as Emily Fleege, Dan Gill as Mike Fleege, Ivy George as Leela Fleege, Olivia Taylor-Dudley as Skylar, and Michael Krawick as Father Todd. So yeah, that's to set up the premise and the cast for Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimension from 2015. Not a fan of this one, if I'm being honest right up front about it. And I'll get into the reasons why, but the bloom is really off the rose at this point for this franchise, in my opinion. This kind of felt like a 2000s Ghostbusters movie, if you will. So let's just go ahead and get into it, starting with the things that I liked about the movie. And I do like that they finally approach or attempt to tie up some of the loose ends and give us some answers, relatively speaking, from previous movies, mainly Paranormal Activity 3 and the ending of that movie. I was curious about that ending, so that got me engaged in this story initially. So I did appreciate that. I have to say, I really did like the Christmas decor and atmosphere, the Christmas aesthetic that's going on in this movie when you've got, it's back to the old, we've got cameras set up throughout the house, so it's showing different rooms in the house. How they changed it up this time is it's during Christmas time. It's during the month of December. And I thought that was a nice aesthetic to this movie. So we're not just looking at random, bland rooms and walls and things like that. I mean, you still are, but at least there's a big Christmas tree and some Christmas decor going on around it. So I really did like that. I wasn't expecting it. I thought it was good, a good time for it, not only in the series, but when I'm watching this series about a month out from Christmas this year. So I thought it added something different that I liked. The movie does have some interesting ideas, like the connections to some of the previous movies in terms of locations, connections to characters from previous movies and storylines that kept me somewhat engaged throughout, despite some other problems that I'll get into. Sort of the gimmick in this one was interesting, where in the last, well, not the last movie, but the two before that, 3 and 4. You have the oscillating camera, then you have the night vision with the dots in the fourth one. And this one, of course, being a 3D element, not that I watched this movie in 3D, the gimmick is this special camera they find that's seemingly is able to show spiritual beings as it's recording. Um, and I have to say, I thought that was interesting and unique while providing some scares and visuals. Because you have things flying at this camera, supernatural things knocking the camera over, just giving some tension involved there. So while it's not my favorite of the three gimmicks I mentioned, the two from the other movies and then this one, I think it's for this movie I thought it was pretty interesting, and it kind of works for the premise that they're going for here, the ghost dimension. I kind of also like the creepiness and the uniqueness where characters on video, and this is something that has always sort of creeped me out, the sort of time travel, fourth wall breaking, where there's characters, you got characters watching other characters from a previous, a past time, whether it be the day before, or in this case, like 15 years before. And those characters on screen are able to sense the presence or actually see or talk to the characters that are watching it. That's just a really creepy and quite frankly scary premise, which it wasn't executed the best that I've ever seen here, but it still has that, it still kind of had that ambience. And that was something about this movie that I kind of liked, that fourth wall breaking, if you will, that time travel aspect. It's used pretty well here, not as well as it could have been, but pretty well. And then my final pro is I thought the performance by the young girl, Ivy George, who plays Leela, I thought she was the best performance, the best acting, and the best character in this movie. Now, she's the best character, of course, because her character is basically like the template for this movie, as we've seen other young actors and actresses in previous movies. And they've all done a fairly good job, but I think Ivy George is right at the top of that list. I thought she did a good job portraying Leela, was believable as a kid at the beginning, and then as the shit hits the fan and her character changes and the things around her change, I was along with her on this ride. Very believable, very well done. I have to point it out because I've seen way too many young child actors and actresses really drop the ball there, put too much on him, not be directed well. And that wasn't the case here. I thought she did a great job. I'm not going to say she carried the movie, but she's an important part of this movie and easily the best performance for me, especially as a child actor. So those are my pros, or the things that I liked about Paranormal Activity, the Ghost Dimension from 2015. As far as cons go, as I said earlier, I think the shine has worn off this franchise. I think the bloom is off the rose at this point. I kind of felt that way after the fourth film, but then they kind of changed it up with the marked ones and kind of I don't want to say rejuvenated the franchise, but they brought about something different that I could get behind. But now we're kind of back to part 4 again. And we've seen this play out now in at least 3 or 4 different movies where we have the family in this random house in this certain location, and they've got cameras rolling throughout the house that show spooky stuff happening when they're either not awake or I just don't feel these movies have an impact any longer in this franchise. And I also have to say this kind of felt like the most generic of the Paranormal Activities in a lot of ways to me. I don't know. Nothing really shocked me. There were no big twists or anything. It's just kind of felt like a fourth or fifth Insidious movie. Just kind of random, just kind of generic. Doesn't have anything special to it like the first 2 or 3 movies in this franchise did, or even the marked ones to a certain degree. So yeah, I don't know. I just the bloom's off the rose. That's the best way to sum it up. And like I said, you've got stuff here that we've seen like at least 3, maybe 4 times before that were done better as well, in my opinion. So, adding on to that, this movie has the worst and the most CGI and fake cartoonish kind of ghosts that are shown on this video camera. Um, where it's just very noticeable in this movie. It really took me out of it. I mean, the Paranormal Activity, at least the first three or four, did a pretty good job of either staying away from CGI or not having it be as big of a thing as it is in this movie. Not to say they didn't have any before, but I never felt it like I did in this movie. Now, when the title of your movie is Ghost Dimension, you know that they got to throw some supernatural aspects in there. And when you have a camera, a video camera, that they're actually showing, that they're actually using to show the spiritual beings, you know, how do you do that practically? Well, it'd take a lot of money, and of course the answer is they don't. They do it CGI wise, and not a fan of that, obviously, if you followed my channel. And this movie's like a sore, it sticks out like a sore thumb, and not in a good way because of that. So it's really the first movie in the franchise that I genuinely was rolling my eyes by those CGI effects, as cheesy and over the top as they were. Other than the young girl that I talked about, I really couldn't relate to or get behind any of these characters. The husband, the wife, the brother, and the friend. Very generic. And it doesn't help that they make pretty dumb and foolish decisions throughout, which makes it even harder to care about them or get connected to them. I don't know. I didn't think the acting was passable at best by the adult characters in this movie. I mean, it wasn't the worst I've seen, but I've certainly seen better in this franchise. Part 2 comes to mind right away, and even Part 5, the marked ones. So yeah, not big on the characters for the most part, other than Leela, as I mentioned before. And then finally, a couple technical aspects. I wasn't overly crazy about the sound design, which in this movie was a big missed opportunity, because you would think the sound design would be one of the better aspects from a technical standpoint for a movie that they have a video camera that can show spiritual beings. But it was very just generic. It was just very like movie scares, movie sounds. It did nothing for me. And then the writing of this movie is not very good either, especially the written dialogue. The writing in general of this movie is probably the weakest in the franchise so far, if I'm being honest about it. So, yeah, I don't know. Those are my cons for Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimension from 2015. I just don't have a whole lot to say about it. Again, we've seen this song and dance before. We've seen it done better. They did try to answer some questions, not as effectively as I would have liked. They still don't give you the why. They kind of give you a little bit of the how and the what, but not the why, which is the most important question. So they kind of fail from that standpoint. I will say the third act also goes pretty bonkers. Again, you have your scares and your creepiness like all these movies have. But I also felt like it was more over the top. Like I said, a 2010s Ghostbuster movie with all the CGI and stuff to boot. So I'm going to give this movie a 6.5 out of 10. I have to say it's my least favorite so far in this franchise, despite the fact of Ivy George as Leela, despite trying to answer some questions I've been waiting for, despite some ideas and premises, gimmicks, whatever, and some connections to the other movies. It felt rushed, it felt generic. The execution was not great in this movie. So 6.5 out of 10 for Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimension from 2015. Go ahead and comment down below what you guys think of the Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimension. Do you like it more than I do? About the same? Why not? Please like this video, hit the little notification bell, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews. Only one left for this franchise, but I'll also have my ranking video and franchise wrap-up video next week before the end of the month. So with all that being said, I hope you guys are enjoying this Paranormal Activity franchise series review. And I lost my train of thought. I hope everybody's doing well. And with all that being said, as always, stay scared. Bye.